Welcome to The Spotlight, the podcast where veterans and military spouses connect and share how their military experience has transformed their lives and their businesses. Here's your host, Bob Louthen.
Hey, this is your host, Bob Louthen, founder of the VeteranCrowd Network, the network that brings veterans and veteran-led businesses together with each other and the resources they need to prosper. And you are tuning into The Spotlight. Hey, welcome everybody. I am very thrilled to have as my guest today, Ryan Bodenheimer. This is the first time I've had a real Thunderbird jet pilot on the program. I am just pleased as can be. He's also the CEO of an interesting company called BJet Clean. Ryan, thank you for joining the program. Thanks for stepping into the spotlight.
Bob, absolutely, man. I'm really grateful to be here.
I am going to have some fun today. I mean, this is just, as I told you before the program started, there are cool selfies, and then I'm taking a selfie in a fighter jet cool selfies. And I'm just envious of what you do. You've been an F-15E pilot. You've been in the cockpit of the F-16 and the Thunderbirds. I mean, when did you decide to become a pilot? How did this happen?
I think the real catalyst for me was 9/11. So I was a junior in high school when the towers fell, and I knew at that point that I wanted to serve somehow. And I was a kid who was patriotic, appreciated what I had, and all my friends were joining the Marines, the Army, and I was like, how do I go as fast as possible? Oh, cool, Air Force or Navy, and ended up getting a slot in the Air Force doing RTC, and that led me to being a fighter pilot.
You went to the University of Colorado. How'd you wind up out there? From Nashville, Tennessee, right?
Yeah. So my dad was a military guy as well. He was a fighter pilot, and we just traveled all around the world, and we ended up in Colorado Springs. I did most of high school and college out there. So Boulder was a nice, logical step to kind of stay close to family and go to a cool school.
Interesting. You say your dad was a fighter pilot. What did he fly, and when did he fly?
Yep. So he flew OV-10s, F-4s, and F-16s. And he started flying in the late 70s, ended his career in the early 2000s. And so I got to travel around as a little guy and watch him fly fighter jets. And so, that definitely kind of got, the passion started for me. And then I went through the phase of, I'm not going to do that, and then I did the exact thing that he did. So
you had it in your blood and your DNA. Yeah. Well, that's very interesting. So I got to know. I mean, so you go off to flight school, you're training, you slot for jets. What was your first assignment after you finished flight school?
First assignment was F-15Es out of Seymour Johnson. I got to do a basic course there, the B course, like fighter intro there. And then I did an operational squadron there as well. So I was in Seymour Johnson for turned out to be close to 6 years. Got to deploy out of there to Afghanistan out of the 335th Fighter Squadron, the Mighty Chiefs, and then moved on to Mountain Home and flew for the 389th Fighter Squadron for my second ops tour in the F-15E. Yeah.
So I've gotten more familiar with the Navy. So you had a training. Does the Air Force have a similar thing to the fleet replacement squadrons in the Navy, where you're learning the F-15 after you got out of flight school, right? So they have a replacement group, if you will. What do they call that?
They call it the B course.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was a separate squadron there at Seymour Johnson. Their sole focus is training, just like what you talked about with the Navy. So I did that, and then I transferred just across the street to go to an operational squadron, and then started focusing on, higher level mission type stuff instead of just how to fly the jet and basic operation of the radar and stuff like that.
And you have combat experience. Was it at that time that you deployed, and were you in Afghanistan and Iraq? I guess you would have been in Afghanistan probably.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So I deployed to Afghanistan in 2011, late 2011, stayed through mid 2012, did 70 combat missions over there before returning home.
Got it. And when did the Thunderbirds thing, how does that happen? I mean, number one, you're in a different platform, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
No,
I'm fascinated. You got to take me through all of this. I gotta hear about this.
absolutely, man. Yeah. It kind of is one of those things that, I don't think you can really seek out. I don't know if, maybe if I was smarter, I would have sought it out and tried to become a Thunderbird. But I was in my second operational squadron and I wanted to do something different. And so I put my name in the hat for some different exchange tours. I was looking at going to fly the F-18 down in Australia, doing an exchange tour with them. Those are really popular, as you can imagine. So tried for that, didn't get it. And then my boss came to me one day and was like, hey, why don't you just throw your name in the hat for this Thunderbird thing? It's a 1 in a million shot, but hey, maybe, who knows? And then the base commander was like, yeah, thanks for trying, but not going to happen. Yeah, and that's how it kind of goes. You kind of compete, and they kind of, you get ranked number 1 on the base for, all the different things you do, and you kind of get pushed for that kind of thing. And I wasn't that guy. I was just the guy who was kind of, there in the squadron every day, trying to take care of my friends and trying to be a good 4-ship flight lead, trying to be a good instructor. And, I wasn't the golden child, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
But what happened that year is the Thunderbirds didn't get candidates that they were happy with from the top down. So they said, hey, lightning round / wildcard round, if you're interested at all and you want to be a Thunderbird pilot, email us directly. And so it turned out that 2 of my buddies that I had deployed with to Afghanistan were on the team at the time. And they were like, hey, we really want you to send in this email to our boss. So I did. I was like, cool, I'll take the 1 in a million shot, send in the email, said I'd love to learn more about what you guys are about. And then lo and behold, I got an email back the next week that said, hey, you're coming out to an air show. I think it was Barksdale, Louisiana. You're coming out to an air show and we're going to see what you got. So good luck at the semifinals. They were like, the email got you here, but now you got to get yourself hired onto the team. So that's how it started.
See what you got. So that was an interview, right? But you'd never flown the F-16 before that, had you?
No, I hadn't. Yeah. So that was just a week-long interview that's more focused on like your interaction with people, how you interact with cameras being thrown in your face. They took us to high schools and they just saw how we interacted with kids. We went to like a chamber of commerce and they got to see how we interact with the local community and, business owners and things like that. But yeah, no F-16 time at all. But they as a part of that email I sent back to them, I sent them essentially my entire flight record of every check ride I've ever taken. So they know that, you can, cut the mustard when it comes to passing your check rides and being solid in the jet, even being a different jet. But a lot of times with the Thunderbirds, they look for fast jet time, and they kind of know like, hey, if you can handle and process flying a piece of equipment at that speed, we can just change the position of the stick, take away an engine, and you can still do fine. So
how about that? So how much time did you actually spend training on the F-16 to then get qualified to start the training actually with the team and all that practice?
Yeah, so I went to the second interview. So you do essentially 2 weeks of interviews, and then once I finally realized I got selected, they sent me down to Holloman to do what was like I think it was like a 60-day course, but it was only like 14 flights or so and about the same amount of simulators. And it was just the fun flying, man. It was the low level. It was the basic fighter maneuvers, dog fighting, dropping, inert bombs off the F-16, shooting the cannon. I mean, literally, like if Las Vegas, you could pay someone $50 million to go learn to fly a fighter jet in Vegas, this is what it would be. So
right.
Just all the stick and rudder, the fun flying. So that was that course to get qualified. And it was pretty fast until, I was back.
I'm unfamiliar with the setup in the F-15.
Yeah.
Is that a center stick and rudder kind of setup, whereas you've got, just basically a pistol grip on the F-16, right? And was that hard to get used to?
You're right. So the F-15E, it's very similar to like the Super Hornet, where the stick's in the middle, and it's totally different feel as far as the F-16, because F-16's on the side. It's a side stick, and the F-16 has like a limiter, it has like a G limiter, so you can't really over G the thing. I suppose you could, but it's not normal to over G it. And so in the F-15E, you're like kind of very cautious of how you pull the stick for G and all that. So you do have to adjust your mentality when you start flying the F-16. But for me, I mean, I'm not going to say it was easier, but it was a little more user friendly when it came to, you know, how many G's you can pull and how you can kind of rip that thing around and just max perform it. So I was happy, but it wasn't easy at first. But you know, 5-10 flights later, and you're like, okay. I would find myself reaching for that center stick sometimes while I was like taxiing around, you know, so my hand, like your first reaction is to go to back to your initial training. So yeah, I remember getting ready for takeoff one time, reaching for the stick, and I was like, oh no, they forgot to put a stick in here. Oh yeah, it's over here. Okay, got it.
Oh gosh. Have you got a favorite? I mean, of the two aircraft, has you got one versus the other? Or?
You know what I finally realized, because I've been asked this question a handful of times, is if I had to choose a jet to go to combat in, I would choose the F-15E, because it's just got so much capability, carries so much gas, ton of bombs. You got an extra person in there with you who's running the radar for like the air to ground scenario, who's running the targeting pod. And I can just kind of focus on the big rocks outside. I just felt like that thing was just made for combat. And then when it comes to just like raw flying and like a pilot's jet, the F-16 takes the cake there, just because it was so responsive, so nimble. And I got to fly the Block 52, which basically is just a fancy way of saying it had the updated intake and updated engines and some avionics that were updated, but the intake was called the wide mouth intake. And that thing just sucked in air, and you had so much power where you could literally accelerate. You could be at 400 knots, 9 Gs, and accelerate, which is just wild when you think about it. So the fact that the performance of that thing it's like an Indy car, or some sort of just thing that you can max perform. So as a pilot's jet goes, I'd say F-16.
Wow. Okay. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to be talking business and entrepreneurship.
Honor, duty, service. At the VeteranCrowd Network, we're focused on our next mission, bringing veterans, veteran-operated businesses, and veteran service organizations together with each other and the resources they need to prosper. That's why we are launching the VeteranCrowd Rewards Program, exclusively for our individual and corporate members. Now you can save on travel, restaurants, goods, and services from brands you trust online and at over 900,000 locations nationwide. Find out more today at VeteranCrowdNetwork.com. If you are a veteran-operated business, or a VSO, consider the connections, the network, the benefits, the engagement, and success of working with other veterans again. The VeteranCrowd Network, you paid a lot of dues to join this club.
Hey, welcome back. My guest is Ryan Bodenheimer. He is a Thunderbird pilot and the CEO of B-Jet Clean. And I could talk all day about jets and so forth, but I now want to branch off into entrepreneurship. You've had a little bit of a history of being an entrepreneur. When did you discover that passion in your life too?
Yeah, so when I was in Afghanistan, actually, we another group of pilots and we helped a local Afghan group who were teaching women how to sew scarves, how to sew different type of textiles. And they were teaching them like history and things like that while they were doing this. We helped him set up a website to sell these scarves on back here at home. It's since shut down, but it was called Flying Scarves. And it was a site that was just economic empowerment, but there was a lot of entrepreneurship acumen behind that to get all that stuff, the logistics of it all. So that kind of started my experience with entrepreneurship. And then kind of after that, and I'd come back from Afghanistan, I was looking for something else to put my passion for entrepreneurship behind. And I had come across the fact that mainstream soaps, body washes and all that use the same ingredients as car wash soap. And I was looking to start a business.
Scary.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no one really knows that. And I was just looking to put my passion behind something. So I started talking to a lot of friends of mine, a lot of fellow fighter pilots. I was like, hey, do you guys have the same like bad experience with all these mainstream grooming products? And I kind of started the concept for it while I was deployed. I can remember just kind of chatting about it with some friends. And then I just thought of this whole thing like making profits for purpose. And that's kind of what I did with that first venture that I told you about. But I wanted to get into something that was a mainstream, or not, basically a commodity that people use every day, that we could take profits from and give back to veterans. We could create initiatives to essentially empower veterans, create jobs for veterans and things like that. And so the idea for VJet Clean came to me while I was kind of going through that whole process of what to find next. And then when I came home from Afghanistan is when I really started getting serious about it, created my own company, my own vision. I got a weapons systems operator to join in with me, and we bottled the first 2,000 bottles in my kitchen in Boise, Idaho, in between flying sorties in the F-15E, training sorties. So, I was paying him and, dinners and beer and whatever to come help me out at first. And then eventually he became part of an owner in the company. And we sold out of those first 2,000 bottles in about 3 months. And that's when we knew, hey, we've got something here. And since day one, we've been giving back to veteran foundations. I'm really proud this quarter we're giving back to the Patriot Empowerment Institute. And also, I'll just tell you quickly what they do. They do veterans transition counseling when they come back from combat. And there's a lot of Army folks, a lot of Marine folks involved in that, a handful of Air Force as well. And then we're giving back to my prior roommate in college. His name was Will Pyro Du Bois, and he died in an F-16 crash in Jordan in 2015. And his legacy scholarship gives back to hopeful fighter pilots that are going through ROTC and want to get flight lessons. So my whole journey through entrepreneurship has been to get to this point where I can start to give back and use profits for purpose.
You're doing well by doing good. Gosh, there's so much to unpack here. Going back to starting a business, I mean, do you think having been a fighter pilot, having been in the military kind of helped you be a better entrepreneur?
Yeah, Bob, I think so. And I think we put self-imposed limitations on ourselves as veterans where, we're afraid of making a profit. We're afraid of telling the story sometimes, which is just because we're not used to it, but, we're Americans, we're American citizens who are, in my opinion, a part of the greatest country on the face of the earth. And part of that reason why is because of our economic ability to make change and to make impact. I mean, you can see how many countries in the world are dependent upon our economics and how that carries weight right now with current events, with what's going on in Ukraine and with Russia. So obviously economics and, making money is a good thing. And it's a way to impact the world in a positive way if you kind of change the way that you see it. And I think a lot of veterans don't see it that way. So for me, what I did is I kind of flipped that on its head and said, hey, how do we have such a great military? Well, tax dollars that pay for that. How do we have so much influence in the world? Economic prowess. How can I be a part of that story and help use some of that economic prowess for good? And that was my unique perspective, having served in the military, was, hey, I want to keep serving with business too. This doesn't end with the military. So I think it's kind of driven me to understand that I can make an impact and I can make a difference, just going to be in a different way than wearing the uniform. But, I can still tell my story and use that powerful story to make a successful business, which is an advantage, in my opinion.
That's an awesome story right there, because I think a lot of veterans are finding that, we can continue to serve just in a different way, and we can serve through business. And the fact that you guys are giving back to veteran service organizations that, are doing things to help in that regard, I think is just fantastic. You look like you're having fun doing this. You have some really great pithy videos. You've got a whole YouTube channel and so forth. You're having fun doing this. Let's talk a little bit more about that. Number one, when did you discover you were kind of good on camera?
Oh, well, thank you, first of all, for the compliment. I think going through the Thunderbird experience was a highlight of it. But in college, I actually majored in film production. So I got to do a lot of on camera, behind camera stuff. And then I kind of took that and put it in on the back seat, for a while I was learning how to fly fighter jets and, serving in the military. But then the Thunderbirds kind of reawakened that passion. And then, I went through the process of getting out of the military, which you kind of do a lot of soul searching, and you kind of remember, okay, what value do I have to add? And that's a struggle for a lot of veterans who leave the military. And for me, I was like, wait, this whole film thing was a passion of mine back then. Let me dive a little more into that. But yeah, on the Thunderbirds, I mean, I got to speak to, if you include social media, 3 million plus people, and you're seeing yourself on camera. I try not to watch a lot of those things because you can kind of be hypercritical of yourself, but that was definitely good practice. And then starting BJet Clean, I'm not going to say we're a content company, but I love the ability to tell a story with film and with video. And I think that is one of the best ways to make an impact, kind of like what you're doing with this podcast. I mean, I'm sure you're seeing a lot of people like to watch the YouTube version of it.
Yep.
So I realized that was something that, regardless of the outcome, I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed throwing up a YouTube video and just sharing a story because I was passionate about these stories that I was telling. So, recently we've seen some decent traction on YouTube, and I think it's cool to see. But again, I would be doing it even without that traction of the BJet Clean channel.
You've got some neat, videos on YouTube. You're kind of dissecting things. I'm like you. I'm looking forward to seeing the Maverick movie coming out. I mean, that's just going to be, I'm going to make my son go with me, by the way. But it's just fun stuff. And then your video on your webpage about BJet Clean. I'm just going to tell everybody listening. We're going to put a link in the show notes. Go see Ryan and his folks. You've got a little bit of edge to you. It's good. It's good stuff.
Thanks,
we're all
man.
out there producing content, and I think I think that's what's fun and important about it. Hey, back to the Thunderbirds thing. Okay, there's got to be like one story that just stands out for you. I mean, you must have done like some pretty cool flyovers. I don't know. Is there one story maybe that you could share with our audience that just stands out? Maybe it was something funny that happened, or, what's the coolest thing you got among all of the cool things you got to do? Is there one thing that kind of stands out that you can share?
Yeah. I mean, there's a few I'm thinking of. There's some that involve some of the current events going around the world right now, but I'll share this one with you just because it's kind of, it just shows that no matter what you're doing when you're flying fighter jets, you got to be ready. And I'll fast forward and give folks a little hint. This involves me doing a low pass over an essentially abandoned airfield in Canada to scare moose off of the runway.
Okay. Yeah.
But we had just flown in the Royal International Air Tattoo over in London. It's outside of London. And we actually got to fly, in concert with one of the Ukrainian Su-27 pilots, and his call sign is Grey Wolf. He unfortunately was, shot down a few nights into the Russian invasion.
Is this the one we've heard about?
Yes.
Over Kyiv. Yeah. Okay. Oh, wow. All right.
And so people will say like the ghost of Kyiv. That's different than the Grey Wolf, but some people kind of relate it to be the same. But the Grey Wolf is an absolutely 100% real person. He was a Su-27 demo pilot. I believe it was a Su-27. Don't quote me on that, but I'm sure people watching can Google that. But this guy was excellent at flying the Su-27, and he flew right before we flew at the air show. And the cloud deck was super low, and it was really hard to maneuver the Thunderbird formation through all that. We did it. It was a flat show, but then the things that he was doing, we were like, what? Like the way that he was kind of looping underneath the cloud deck, it was really impressive to see. He ended up getting the award for the best performance of 2017, which was cool. And then we got to hang out with them and talk afterwards. A phenomenal person. So we were coming off of that experience, and we were flying back across the ocean. And you do like 12 different refuelings. And my wingman, so we kind of were in 2 by 2 by 2 by 2, I think. There's 8 of us. And my wingman's oil pressure went to 0 on the F-16, which is like, you're on this Thunderbird team, you're coming back from England, you're like, nah, man, this is and those jets are really well maintained, but hey, fighter aviation, things happen. And so his oil pressure goes to 0, which in the F-16 means, hey, pretty quickly here, if you touch that throttle, your engine's going to seize. So he had just gotten topped off with gas, which was great. And we were just passing over kind of some icebergs on the outskirts of Greenland. And we did the math and determined that he could barely make it into this little abandoned airfield in northern Canada. But no one had ever been there on our team. And they're like, hey, Neo, you two are going there. Good luck. See ya. And you're wearing dry suits, so you got the dry suit on. So we're like, hey,
it's a long trip and it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. And then, if you end up not being able to make it to that airfield, your next option is, hey, you're going to float around for a while and maybe someone will come get you. We don't know, but we ended up getting over top of the land, and this airfield, to me, I had no idea what I was going to find. And so I'm thinking, okay, worst case scenario is his engine flames out. He goes down to do a landing. The airport's unusable. And now he's maybe outside the ejection envelope or not in such a good place to eject. So I went out ahead of him and I did like a low pass with the smoke on, just like, hey, I want everybody to see me. I want everybody to know that like there's an emergency aircraft. So I'm transmitting on guard on the way there. It was like a little outpost and there happened to be someone there. So I got a hold of somebody, did a low pass over top of the runway, cleared it from our wingman. He lands, and then we were stuck in northern Canada for like 10 days waiting on a tanker to come get us.
Did you land also?
I landed behind him, yeah, because I was low on gas as well, but my jet was working just fine. But turns out it's like an old German built airfield up there that's still maintained.
Good thing it was there.
Yeah, someone was there. It was like a little, person sitting in an office that answered the radio on like the central frequency there.
Yeah, the most exciting thing that happened there in a long time.
Oh man, the whole town came out, that all 12 people came out and they're like, well, what is this? So we're like, hey, impromptu air show, guys. So that was an interesting thing, but one of many stories. I know we don't have time for many more, but I could probably sit here all day. And
did you do a flyover of the Super Bowl?
I did, yes.
God, you're the man.
Yeah.
And then you get to go and wave and be on the Jumbotron and all that kind of stuff after you land. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that was cool. We actually we did that, and then we went up to some of the the suites or whatever. I got to hang out with Buzz Aldrin and chat with Buzz Aldrin about his plans to go to Mars. And again, these are things that you don't think you'll be doing as a young captain or major in the Air Force. So really blessed, really grateful to have done it, and it hopefully impacted a lot of people in a positive way. That was probably the best part of the whole thing. There's obviously those those crazy moments where you're, at the Super Bowl, but, some of the probably more meaningful, memorable moments for me were, side conversations with kids in high schools, sitting and talking with a couple that just started a business in Traverse City, Michigan, and their hopes and their, desire to, provide for their family. And I just kind of realized that like America's crushing it. That was kind of my biggest takeaway from my time on the Thunderbirds. We hear all this doom and gloom on the news, and don't get me wrong, America's not perfect, things that we can improve on, of course, but I was just so surprised to see just I'll say the fortitude of the American people and how people are taking risks and overcoming hardships to really put it all on the line and be successful. I mean, I was blown away, and that's something that I'm grateful to have seen every day.
We really are lucky. Hey, Ryan, I could talk all day. Let's do a little shameless self-promotion right now. How do people get in touch with you? How do they buy BJet Clean products? And how do they follow you on YouTube?
Yeah, thanks. I'd say, the biggest thing is just go to BJet Clean on YouTube, follow us there. And then from there, you'll see links to our website on the different video descriptions. But honestly, even if you don't buy anything, just watch our videos, watch our content. I think it'll give people a lot of excitement and entertainment. And that's our whole goal, is to just be one of the most exciting and entertaining aviation channels on YouTube. So that's the best place. You can go to Instagram as well. Just look for BJet Clean, and I usually respond. Myself or my business partner will respond to all the messages on BJet Clean. So if you want to say hi, I'm happy to see you there.
I'll give a personal promotion. Just go see Ryan break down the new, the trailer for the new Maverick movie. Great stuff there. Hey, Ryan, thank you so much. Our guest has been Ryan Bodenheimer. He is Thunderbird pilot and CEO of BJet Clean, former F-15E pilot, 13 years in the Air Force. Thank you for your service. I'm going to throw out a Army Bravo Zulu to you for your performance today. Thank you. And we'll throw out and tell everybody your call sign is Neo. And after the show, I'm going to find out how you got it. Folks, you've been listening to the Spotlight on the Veteran Crowd Network. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks again to Ryan Bodenheimer, and folks, and that's a wrap.
Thank you for listening to Spotlight by Veteran Crowd. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and uploads, please visit our website at veterancrowdnetwork.com. We'll see you next time.